Alright, we should be showing online any second now. And there we go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Bar911970. As usual, I'd like to take this moment and thank each and every one of you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say, whether you're watching it live or watching it days, weeks, months, years later. Hopefully you'll learn something from it. I've definitely been going through a transition in my life, and that's always a beautiful thing because the more you learn, the more you change. So if I could teach anything in any of my videos, especially the most recent ones, is not to live in the past, because the past you can't control. It's all about living in the now and using things in your life to better your life. In other words, learning from your mistakes, learning from negativity, things like that. So hopefully you'll check it out. And also, while I'm waiting for people to come in, I just want to let people know that for some reason, YouTube and Google doesn't like to share my posts. Over almost 34,000 subscribers, and barely anybody ever gets notifications. So what I recommend, check out my videos periodically. Go to my channel and just check it out. Helping to share my videos really helps, so thank you for that. So I want to share something that hopefully will get you to kind of change things in a different way. And like you see here, you just see a plain, ordinary box of tissues. Now, no one would stop and think of that as being something that could potentially change your life in the most dramatic of senses. And my job is to help you think in a different way. So I'm going to show you how something as so seemingly insignificant as a box of tissues could put you on a path that could totally change your world. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical situation, and I want you to think about this. Let's start with scenario number one. Let's just say you have a sister who's in college away from wherever you live. And they're around 17 years old. And they call you up and they say, I'm on my way to come visit you. It's a surprise visit. I'm flying in and I'll be at the train station around 10 o'clock tonight. Can you come pick me up? And at the moment, you're currently at work, but you say, all right, I get off around 7 o'clock. By the time I get home, shower and everything, I should be by the train station at exactly 10 o'clock. So yes, I could be there and pick you up. You're very happy to know that your sister's coming to surprise you. And she's coming. It's her first time ever doing this by herself. So you get home, you take a shower, you do all the things necessary to get ready. And you're going to meet her at a train station, which you know is a very dangerous train station, so you want to make sure you're there on time. So you hop in your car, and just as you start it up, you sneeze. And you sneeze to the point where you need a tissue. So you reach into your glove compartment, and you don't find one. So you're like, no big deal, I'll just go into the house and get one. So you shut off the car, and, well, actually, no, let me change this up. I'm sorry. The first scenario is you open the glove compartment and you find tissues. So you just quickly blow your nose and you pull out of the driveway. And as you notice on this trip, it's about an hour-long trip to get there. And you notice that there is a little bit of traffic, but you're able to get through it. And in the last 10 minutes or so, you have to take these, not the main roads, but the local roads. But luckily, every traffic light just happens to turn green, making it easy enough to get to your sister at the train, and you get there just on time at 10 o'clock, and there's your sister just getting off the train with you waiting with open arms. Now, I want you to change the scenario a little bit. I want you to think of you're in that car again, and you sneeze, and you go to look for a tissue, and there isn't one. So you turn off the car, go into the house and get yourself, a tissue and clean yourself up a little bit. No big deal. But now, because you've delayed, all of a sudden the traffic got a little bit busier. And all the lights that were green, now you're catching every light. And with all the delays, you end up being a half hour late. And when you get to the train station, you find out that she's no longer there. You try and call her, no response. You try and call out her name, you don't hear it. You look around, you don't see anything, and you go searching. and you don't find anything. And days later, you find out that your sister, while alone on the train track, was kidnapped and killed. Now, obviously, this is a big scenario, and hopefully it never happens to anybody. But it all started with a change of event of something as simple as a box of tissues. Now, it's not the tissues that is the significant part. It's the fact that a minor change in detail can totally change the course of your life, which shows how amazing life can be and how we should never take anything for granted. Now, of course, it doesn't always have to be the worst case scenario where the situation I proposed actually has to happen. But, I mean, if you think about, like, for example, a plane crash, and hopefully no one will ever have to experience that. When you have hundreds of people on that plane, just imagine if you rewound their lives for just a day. How many things have to go into effect to where they make it on the plane on time? Go back a year before any of them even purchased the ticket. How many situations could have altered their history and they ended up on another plane or maybe didn't go at all? So if you realize how fragile life is and appreciate every single choice that you make and realize that an alternate choice just creates a whole nother reality of what could be, that hopefully it can help you to think of your life in a much different perspective, that something as simple as just reaching in your glove compartment looking for a box of tissues can change and alter your life. I mean, think of a traffic accident. What it takes for just two cars to meet at that exact point, where if you did something that took you 10 seconds, which is an insignificant amount of time, but 10 seconds could be the difference between you hitting a car and you almost hitting a car, or never hitting a car at all. So just think of all the different things that happen in your life, that if you change it in the minute sense, how different your life could be. Now, obviously, we can't change what's already happened, but you can affect the direction that you head. Because a lot of people, they live with fear. A lot of it is fear of the unknown, saying, oh, well, I want to get my own business, but I'm afraid because it's difficult, or I don't know. Or I'm not going to take the time to do this particular activity that I want to, love, but it takes effort to do it. Or you think, oh, that's just a minor thing. I don't want to worry about that. That's no big deal. Well, you don't know if it's a big deal until you actually accomplish it and do it. And one of my subscribers recommended this person, and I highly recommend this person as well to listen to. His name is Alan Watts. Now, I've learned in my life, especially now, there's nothing wrong with listening to what people have to say. Whether it resonates with you or not, that's up to you. But listen to alternatives and get different viewpoints, because you never know. There might be one thing out of 1,000 words that they say that might just click with you. And if it helps put your life in a different perspective, then it's always beneficial, even if 99% of what else they said doesn't affect you at all. But there was a situation, a little story you told about how be careful what happens to you in the moment to determine whether it's a good or bad thing, because you never know. And he uses this scenario of a Vietnamese father who has a son, and his son breaks his leg. And all of the people around the town and village say, oh, what a bad thing that happened to your son. And the father goes, maybe. And they find out the next day that the Vietnamese war was going on, and they were basically going from village to village to get all of the able bodies to come fight in the war. And because the child had his leg broken, they passed him by. So if you look at something at the moment, yeah, breaking your leg, you'd think, well, that's a bad thing. But what if he didn't break his leg? And what if he was drafted into the army and taken away? And what if he was murdered? If that's the scenario, then is the broken leg really a bad thing? Again, something that could be considered insignificant or bad, because there's an old saying that says, be careful what you wish for, you may get it. And let's say before that person broke their leg, a genie pops up the day before and doesn't tell you the future of the events that follow, but says to you, I see in your future that tomorrow you're going to break your leg and it's going to be painful. But I, as a all-powerful genie, I can stop that from happening. Now, probably 999.999% of the time, people are going to say, that's great. You could stop me from having my leg break? Definitely. Make sure it doesn't happen. And the genie grants your wish, and you don't break your leg, but then you get pulled into the war, and you die in the war because of that. But because your leg broke, you weren't drafted into military. You lived the rest of your life never experiencing war. So was that broken leg a bad thing? Or was it something that when you look back as a blessing in disguise? So just imagine that, for example, you're driving down the road, maybe you're going to go grocery shopping or something, and your tire goes flat. You're going to be upset about that. And let's just say you stopped right in front of, like, you're within 2 miles of a gas station. So you have to walk the 2 miles, and it's raining, and you're soaking wet. You're not going to be happy at that point. But what if, when you get to the gas station, they're pumping gas and seeing you all drenched comes over to you and ends up being your future soulmate that you end up marrying? And but for the fact that that happened, you may have never encountered each other. If you look at it after the fact, then was it a bad thing? So what I want to try and teach people on this channel, now, I can't, again, like I say in life, you can't change your past. So the things that people think about me from years ago, or the way I used to think from years ago, that's part of who I was. Part of what I am now is trying to get to another level where I think of things in a grander scheme, in a better perspective, where can I learn from a tragedy? Or is something that happens a blessing or a curse? And we may never know right away. And sometimes it could take days, weeks, months, or years later to find out that that specific thing that happened put you on a path that led you to where you are. I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Those of you who've been watching my channel for a while know that years ago, back in 1998, my house was robbed, and it was robbed by my ex-fiancée. Robbed me blind. Now that's a bad thing, and it happened on Cinco de Mayo. And actually, no, I'm sorry, not 1998. That's when I moved to the house. It was 2001, and it was Cinco de Mayo. So Cinco de Mayo has a different kind of meaning for me, because I came home from work after working a double shift to see my house was destroyed and most of my, possessions were gone. And what wasn't gone was scattered all over the place and wrecked. That seems like a bad thing, doesn't it? Well, one of the good things at the time is, because I had my home business and I had a massage business and I wasn't a DJ at the time, I used to get, like, back then you could get VCRs and stuff. Right before eBay, there was a place called Yahoo Auctions and another place called Ubid. Ubid is still around, but back in those days, no one knew about it. And I was getting, like, disc players and Walkmans and all these things for really cheap, and I would give them out as like gifts to my clients. And I had literally about $4,000 or $5,000 worth of stuff, but I kept the receipts. I also had a lot of collectibles, a lot of my comics. If you watch my comic book channel, you'll know about the history about that. I kept the receipts for everything. I was very meticulous when it came to collecting receipts, because as a massage therapist, you need the receipts for your taxes. Well, it ended up the insurance company, when it comes to especially collectibles, it's not based on what you pay. It's based on the value. And because of the amount of the value of the things that I collected, and they were worth so much more than what I paid, the money that I got from my insurance for my house being robbed is what ended up helping me to buy my own karaoke DJ system. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's what's helped me from basically, drowning in debt, being my own boss. So walking home, opening my door, seeing my house robbed, yes, that's devastating. That makes you angry. It makes you sad. It makes you depressed. It makes you, frightened, because you're only living in that moment. Little did I know, about a year and a half later, I would end up, because of that, having a brand new business that I still do to this day. So I want people that are going through a bad situation, who may have just literally had a bad thing happen to them today, instead of seeing it as a bad thing, say to yourself, what path is this going to take me on? And think of it as an exciting adventure. That it's almost like a pinball machine, where if the pinball was left alone, it would just fall down to the middle and you'd lose the game. But if you smack that ball, it's going in a different direction and you don't really know where it's going. So if you look at negativity as a learning tool, and saying that even the most insignificant thing can alter your life in ways that you could never imagine, it's good to focus on the now, but also remember that you're gearing always towards your future. So you never know what happened now, or what's about to happen, that you could see as a tragedy and could actually be a blessing in disguise, and something that you think is, lucky, ends up being the worst thing that ever happened to you. Like, how many people have won the lottery and then carelessly blew it all away and ended up in jail, or ended up worse off than when they started? So just because something comes to you in your life, it depends on what you do with it, because you'll never know until time in the future of what the significance of it really is. And there was a person that I was watching the channel. I don't remember the name, because it was just a couple of videos I glanced on as I was going through the recommendations, because YouTube loves to do these weird recommendations that sometimes are different from what you're normally watching. And there was this person talking about this bad trip on LSD. And I think the last time I ever tried that, I was like 20 years old. So I tried it once back when I was in 20s. But and I didn't have a bad experience with it, but I haven't done it again, and I haven't done it since. But he was talking about this bad trip where he said that he was having this dreamlike state where he was stuck with these two kind of demons, saying he's going to be stuck like this for all eternity, and he couldn't die, even though in his bad trip he was dying a million times. Now, if you think about things that I've talked about in the past, that in my opinion, that we are eternal, we are energy, we live forever, we've always been, we always will be. Whether you believe in that or not is up to you, and that's fine. This is what I believe. And if it resonates with you, that's a good thing. I believe that because we are energy and we are light, we cannot be destroyed, that we are learning things, and if it takes millions of lifetimes, I mean, if you are God, and every person is God, because we all come from a singular consciousness and we're experiencing life through our own version of that creation, that Just think of that dream he was having or that bad trip he was having. Now, you'd think two demons trying to kill you forever would be a bad thing. But if you see it from a positive standpoint, it means no matter what they do to you, you will never die. And even if they quote unquote kill you, you're always coming back, which means they lose their power. And they're not as scary if you know that you're never going to die. And they can kill you over and over again, and you will be there again and again and again. What power do they have over you? So one of the things I've been learning, especially recently, is trying to find the good out of any situation, even ones that are really horrible or seemingly horrible. Because like I've said in past videos, and unfortunately not many people have seen it, thanks YouTube and thanks Google, but go to my channel and look at my videos, especially the last couple of ones. It talks about how negativity, if you say, what can I learn from it? Then you never look at negativity the same way again. And I've been spending a lot of time recently trying to learn from mistakes, learn from the past, learn from pain. Because you'll notice that if you do not try and solve your own riddles, they get worse and worse. And once you solve them by learning the experience of what it's representing, it no longer has a purpose. And it tends to go away. And that is what life is all about, in my opinion. It's learning. Maybe it's forever. Maybe that is what our internal hell is just living forever. That might seem like a blessing. But what if you are a singular consciousness and you create your own universe? Because that's the gift you've been given. That you have this ability to create everything based on your feelings and your belief system, even if it's stuff you really don't think you want. But what if those negative things are there to teach you to become better? What if you truly are alone and everything you create and everyone you create is just your own version of illusions, so you're never alone? I mean, think about if you've seen, and I just saw recently, the Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I mean, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give any major spoilers. But Ego the Living Planet was talking about the fact that he is a god, not the god, but a god, as he says, lowercase g, and that for millions of years he was alone, and he started creating his own universe. What a surprise. Sure, that's just a coincidence. So never take anything for granted. And if a bad situation is, especially if it keeps reoccurring, it's that hello McFly moment. Pay attention to it. Dig deeper into it. And that's the thing. People are always telling you, oh, don't confront that. Ignore these people. Ignore the negativity. That's the opposite of what you want to do, because if you don't face it, you will never learn from it. Just imagine if you had a mathematical equation that you couldn't figure out because it wasn't 1 + 1 = 2. It was a complicated equation. How quickly will you solve it if you ignore it? What will you learn from it if you ignore it? So if something bad is happening to you, if you ignore it, do you really think it's going to go away? It tends to be very persistent, because what if you were the one unconsciously and subconsciously put that in there, because when we supposedly get reborn, we forget everything. But what if we leave ourselves little clues that, if we pay attention to it, could help us grow and become better individuals? You ever wonder why angry people tend to stay so angry? It's because they don't feel that there's anything wrong, or they're too afraid to face what's wrong. You ever wonder why people in bad relationships, no matter how many of them end and a new one begins, they end up dating the same type of person over and over again? It's like going to school and getting left back. Until you learn the lesson, you're going to be taught the same thing over and over again. The only problem is the longer you have to deal with it, the more annoying it is. But once you learn that 1 plus 1 is 2, you no longer need to learn it. So I hope my videos, especially lately, can help you start to see things in a different light. Whether you believe in what I believe in is irrelevant. Like I said, if you listen to anybody and you get 1% out of what they say as something that can resonate with you and help you, then that's always a good thing. Listen to all, but don't just take everybody's word for stuff, especially when they're trying to sell you stuff. And I've learned that through a lot of people. If you haven't had the chance to listen to this whole video from the beginning, I highly recommend you do. And put yourself in that scenario and think to yourself, is there a situation that is just one little change put you on the path that you're at? And what would you think would happen if that didn't occur? What if you could take away one of the most traumatic things in your life, but it ended up maybe you never had your children. Maybe you never met your loved one. Would you do it? Let's say, for example, as a child, you were totally abused as a child. Your parents beat the living daylights out of you. They were both alcoholics. They both beat the living daylights out of you on a regular basis, which seems horrible, but it will teach you to be strong. It will teach you to be a fighter. It will teach you to know what evil is. It could make you end up being a very caring person, a very loving person. And what if that path is what took you to meet your soulmate and you had 2 beautiful children that came from your love, and you treated your children like you wish you would have been treated? Wouldn't that be a beautiful thing? Now, if you could go back, and again, the day before you get abused for the first time by your parents, or step-parents or whatever, a genie comes to you and says, all right, tomorrow is going to start a decade worth of your parents beating the living daylights out of you. And it's going to be painful. And it's going to make you sad. And it's going to make you question God, him or herself. But with the snap of a finger, I could make it never happen. And what they don't tell you is, because it doesn't happen, you will never meet the love of your life. You will never have those beautiful children that you have. Knowing what you know now, would you go back and change it and risk losing everything that you love to go on a different path? And if you have the love of your life, if you have 1, 2, 3, 10 beautiful children, or something, whatever that makes you happy, if your path is what brought you there, then would you want to change anything? And if your answer is no, I wouldn't change anything, then was it bad? Or was it a motivator to push you in the right direction? Because you don't react to anything more powerfully than pain and negativity. And if you view pain and negativity in that light, then you'll be amazed at how things don't just happen coincidentally. They happen for a reason, because they put you on a path. They get you to learn things, provided you face them. If you don't face them, you'll go crazy. You'll be full of depression. You'll be full of hatred. And you'll never change. And you'll be stagnant. And that's why I say the difference between a pond and a stream. A stream is always going to be crystal clear. Why? Because the water is always moving. It's always flowing. And if you ever go to, like in the middle of the woods, and you see a small little pond, you probably see it cloudy and full of green guck. It's because the water doesn't go anywhere. It's stagnant. And the beautiful thing about free will is you have the choice to do nothing, include thinking something like this is crazy. and just instead of listening to the message, just hating the messenger. Because I got plenty of people that hate me for whatever reasons. It used to bother me. Now I feel sorry for them. Because for me, their hatred, I needed to face that and learn that just because somebody has an opinion about me that I don't like doesn't mean it's going to change my life or has to change my life. It no longer affects me the way it used to. And that's because I chose, when I ignored it, like so many people, and like they say, drowning in good intention, people said all the time, oh, just ignore them. Well, was it any wonder why it started getting really bad at one point? Because I wasn't facing what I needed to learn. And that's the learning lesson I learned, especially from my hating trolls, is the fact that I had to learn that not everybody has to love me. And even if somebody doesn't like me, that's on them, not me. Because if they don't like me for who I am and when they don't even know me, why should I let that upset me? So now, like if you go to my comic book channel, because I don't hide these things, I have a comic book channel called We Love Comics. My last video I made just a couple of days ago already has like 9 thumbs down. And it's just showing comic books. Nothing controversial at all. And I get that on almost every single video. Some of them as high as 75 thumbs down just for the fact that I do comic book videos because the people don't like me. And it used to bother me. But now, it's like if somebody wants to spend their free time going to a channel that they supposedly don't like just to thumb it down, okay, congratulations, thanks for the extra views. But it used to bother me. And that's why it kept happening. And that's why it kept getting worse and worse and worse to the point where I shut down the channel. How productive was that? How beneficial was that? Because I chose to not face it. But the beautiful thing is, when you make a mistake, you can always correct it, even if it's over and over and over again. Because nothing says success like repetition. You don't pick up a violin for the first day and play symphony music. It takes years of practice of doing the same things over and over again. So it's the same thing with mistakes. Sometimes you're going to mess up. Sometimes you're going to try and correct it, and you're going to mess up again. Sometimes you're going to fail, and that's okay. It just means it wasn't your time to learn it yet, or you weren't going to learn it enough to make it worth your while. So if you mess up, so what? Do it again. Try a different way. See the beauty of the fact that life cares about you so much that it's not giving up on you, and it's going to make you be so annoyed until you get out of the way of your own self, and you learn something from it. That doesn't mean your life tomorrow will be better. It just means you'll be able to face things better, deal with things better, live with things better. And right there, it's just better. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. But the beautiful thing is we can always change it once you see it. A magic trick is only amazing when you don't know how it's done. Once you find out that it's 2 separate women in the boxes when they saw a woman in half, and you know that the woman is crawled into the box and another one is sticking their legs out pretending to be them, it's not as amazing and it's not as fantastic anymore. So I'm going to leave this video here. And anybody that could share this, it really helps. Because YouTube is going to make sure 99% of my subscribers will never get the notification that I'm doing this. So without your help, it's not going to get out there. So if you think, especially my recent videos or any video, if you think it's something that people should learn, if you could post it on your social networks and share it, it really helps. And if you haven't watched this video since the beginning, I highly recommend it. Start thinking about life in a different way. See the negative as a learning tool. Think back of some of the things that had to happen to bring you where you are now. Because no matter how bad you have it, it can't be that bad. There's got to be some good. There's got to be some great things. It's got to be something you love or someone you love. Think about all the things it took for you to get to that point. And if you had to go through some trials and tribulations and some bad things to get there, if it got you somewhere you want to be or with somebody you want to be with, then why would you want to change one grain of sand? Because like I said, with this box of tissues, your whole life can change with just the most minuscule of events. So would you dare ever want to risk that? Just so you didn't have a bit of pain? Because here's the beautiful part. If you've experienced pain, it's in your past. You cannot revive the dead, at least as far as I know. So why worry about pain that is already gone? And Dale says hate is bad. Hate is bad if you want it to be. What if you hate being shot? Is that really bad? What if you hate people who abuse animals? Is that bad? There's negative and positive, yin and yang, on and off. They're just two different sides of the same coin. It's all in your perception of how you perceive things. I wouldn't have a problem saying I hate people that find it fun hurting animals. Is it really bad? Try and look at things in different perspectives. Because everything is your own truth. Even if you try and trick yourself into believing nothing. Because you'll get verification of what you say to be true. It's all a choice. It's a beautiful choice once you get to see the ability, and it makes you realize, because you need real eyes to realize how powerful you really are. That's up to you. And if you're not as confident as some other person, figure a way to be confident, maybe even more confident. What effort are you willing to put in? Because if you're not willing to put any effort, don't expect to get much back. You get what you give. So I want to thank everybody that took the time to leave comments. So I'm going to give some shout outs to Dale Hess, Rick P., 5 Artis Liberalis, Ron Weiss. Let's see. Recommended for You, interesting name. Jess Waslowski, J-Man Truth Seeker, Trevor Donald Yoakum, All Chemical Binoculars, I like that name. And to anybody else who listens to this later on. Twisted, thank you all for taking the time to comment. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you will keep the communication going. I hope that you will see negativity or bad things in your life as just different paths for you to choose from and things you could learn from. So thank you so much for listening. I hope 1% of what I said resonated with you. Anything more is an absolute bonus. So if you want to give it a thumbs up, I always appreciate the support. If you want to give it a thumbs down because you thought it was a load of crap, by all means, have fun doing it. Share it. And I hope, if anything, you have a great day and maybe grow a little bit more. And if you did, then this happened for a reason. So thanks for watching. Have a great night. And don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. Or not, because maybe they can reproduce and have a non-troll child.